Good morning, everybody. It is time for week 6 reactions. After a very wild, very fun college football Saturday, it is I, Captain Boyd. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Who does listen, don't forget to like and subscribe and share. Thank you to all the new followers that we have on the YouTube channel. Download and get us wherever you can get your podcast. We are so glad to have you. Like I said, it was a wild and wacky Saturday. Let's start at the Rose Bowl for UCLA and Penn State. The upset that had not happened for 40 plus years, or almost 40 plus years. An 0-4 UCLA Bruins shocks the college football world and beats Penn State 42-37. So I want to start with this. I think that early the team just was not ready to play, and that was pretty evident, and that falls on James Franklin. James Franklin even admit that they let last week's loss to Oregon now lose them another game here on Saturday. And I was blaming Drew Aller. However, Drew Aller played pretty good. UCLA did a surprise onside kick early to go up 10. They dominated, and then UCLA dominated the second quarter, outscoring Penn State 17-0. Penn State kind of rallied and had a shot to tie it at the end, but then the play calling on 4th and 2 going in that Penn State had was horrendous. Drew Aller was the team's leading rushers in a team with 2 NFL running backs on it. Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton combined for 89 yards together. Drew Aller had 78 yards by himself. That's unacceptable. Drew Aller had as many carries as Nick Singleton and 3 more than Kaytron Allen. That's unacceptable. Drew Aller was 19-26 for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. His QBR was just shy of 80. That's excellent. So Drew Aller has been the problem up until today. Yesterday. He was not the problem on Saturday. You can blame one person only, and that is James Franklin. My father, who is a casual sports observer, I would say at best. I did not get my passion for sports from my father. However, he helped foster the passion for sports that I have. So kudos to you, Dad, who does listen to the podcast. Big fan of the pod. Friend of the pod, as the boys say. And I said, me and him were talking after the game because he was chatting with me. He said, and I said, problem is, I don't think it's totally his fault. We were talking about Franklin. Aller has not been good. However, the defense fell asleep today. By the way, the defense was giving up 60 yards rushing going into this game. They gave up 280 yards. That's awesome. And my dad said, well, he is the coach. I mean, if one of my project managers messes up, the COO holds me accountable as well. So his defensive coordinator was not good today. His offensive coordinator definitely was not good today. And so who's going to bear the brunt? And that is James Franklin. Nico Iamaleava gets the signature win returning home. His QBR was 97.4. He threw for 1 and 2 touchdowns. He was UCLA's leading rusher with 128 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was excellent today in the upset. This is a all too familiar story for Penn State fans. James Franklin getting in the way of team success. And it's not so much that he got in the way. I feel like he didn't do enough today. Not having the team prepared for a surprise onside kick, that falls on the head coach. The defense falling asleep for the entire first half, that falls on the coach. The team not utilizing your 2 NFL running backs, that's on the head coach. Because when the offensive coordinator is making plays and none of them are going to Nick Singleton or Kaytron Allen, you need to get on the headset and be like, Andy, got to run the ball. You need to figure out a way to run the ball. UCLA did not dominate this game defensively by any stretch of the imaginations. Penn State also got a blocked punt return for a touchdown, so that even helped this score appear closer than what it actually was. They were outgained by UCLA. UCLA had more first downs, less turnovers, less penalties, better on third down. UCLA was 0 of 2 on fourth down, and their time of possession nearly doubled that of Penn State. That was an embarrassing performance. Penn State is completely out of the playoff picture, in my mind. They would need generational help to make it back in. If it comes down to a Notre Dame team who has 2 losses and a Penn State team who has 2 losses, now that would mean that Penn State beats Indiana and Ohio State. Okay, so they have a little bit of an argument, 2 currently top 10 teams. But if it comes down to those 2, and Notre Dame has blown everyone out, and I'm looking at Penn State, and I go, yeah, but they lost to 0-4 in UCLA on the road. Can't have that happen. Penn State lost 2 games in a row for the first time since 2021, so it has been a hot minute. But that loss was inexcusable for James Franklin and Penn State. Alrighty, let's talk a little bit about the other kind of 3:30 window that had me shocked, that lost me some money, that lost the parlay. Penn State losing also lost the parlay, so I do apologize to all of the people who bet along with our parlay. The only one right was Robert, and he was barely right. Michigan went in to score, and we'll talk about Michigan in just a minute. Florida and DJ Lagway's offense woke up finally. DJ Lagway was awesome. He had a QBR just shy of 95. He threw for almost 300 yards, 298, 2 touchdowns. He did have 1 interception, and they ran for 159 yards. DJ Lagway was terrible leading up to Saturday. On third down, they were 7 of 14. In their last game against Miami and then LSU, I think they were 0 on third down. 0. Against Miami, they definitely were. They did not convert a third down. So they were 50% on third down. They beat Texas in time of possession 34-25. They outgained them 457 to 341. They had more first downs. They had less penalty yardage. They outplayed Texas in the swamp. I did not think that their offense was capable of this. Now, one thing I was unaware of is that Dallas Wilson, the true freshman, 6'3", receiver, came back, and he was a lightning rod immediately in his first game. He lit up the spring game, got injured in fall camp, so this was his first game of the season. He had 6 receptions for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Billy Napier somehow, some way, he's like a cat. He's on his 5th life. Now, Florida still has plenty. They're 1-1 in the SEC. That means that if Florida makes some noise and messes around and beats Texas A&M the following week. No, it is next week. Yeah, if they beat Texas A&M and they go on a little bit of a run, they can still make the SEC championship game. They can still make the playoff, theoretically, because their losses are to a top 20, currently a top 25 Miami team, a top 25 LSU team, and a South Florida team that is the best currently group of 5 team. And if they run the table, they would have wins over, again, currently ranked number 6 A&M, number 12 Georgia, number 4 Ole Miss, number 15 Tennessee, and number 18 Florida State. Now, Florida State's probably going to drop out of the top 25 after, and I'll get to that in just a minute, after their loss to Miami on Saturday. But Florida's still in it. Now, however, do I think they will? No. But this offense on Saturday, shocking. I took the under. I didn't think that they could score this much in a game based on what I had seen the first 5 weeks of the season. Florida's offense was asleep. DJ Lagway had regressed. The offensive line had regressed. The play calling, which Bailey Napier's in charge of, had regressed. And then all of a sudden it woke up on Saturday against a good Texas defense that allowed under 100 yards rushing on the season per game. Let's flip it over to the other side. Arch Manning, not that guy yet. I'm seeing glimpses of it. He had a couple great passes late in the game. He just holds on to the ball. He stands in the pocket too long late in the game, and that cost them late in the game. But they were in it. They were down 8 with the ball, moving it a little bit. So they had a shot. But here's the other thing. Arch Manning led Texas in rushing. Florida's defense is really, really good. And I said that on the podcast. I said Florida's defense is really good. Texas's defense is really good. Both the offenses are not, especially Florida's. Take the under. And then Florida's offense, of course, wakes up. Texas ran for 52 yards on the game. 3 running backs ran for a total of 15 yards. Arch Manning had 37 yards. Was their leading rusher. Cannot happen. So I get Arch Manning. Yes, a lot of this falls on him. His QBR was 70. He had 2 really bad interceptions. But even if you have a DJ Lagway type performance, if you run for 52 yards, you're probably going to lose the game. So Texas has got to figure out the running game, and that will help Arch. But again, I've seen in the swamp was the first time I actually saw glimpses somewhere. Like, I don't care about the FCS and the group of 5 schools and how he performed very well. I don't care about any of that. I care about what he did on the road in hostile environments. Against Ohio State, he was terrible. Against Florida, it wasn't great. It wasn't even good, but it was all right. And there were definitely glimpses there that Texas fans can hold and hang on to. All right, Florida State and Miami. Listen, Miami is a really good team, and they are in my top 5 of national contender list. Just real quick, it's still Ohio State, it's Miami, it's Oregon, it's Alabama, and then I had Indiana in there last week. Because frankly I forgot about Miami, I want to and am going to, I think, put Texas Tech in there. Let me just make sure I'm not well, actually, I had Ole Miss in there last week, and they had a bye, so it's only fair to keep them in. So Ohio State, Oregon, Miami, Ole Miss, and then Alabama are in my 5 national contender list. And again, this list is going to update on the weekly because Texas Tech looks awesome. For a school not known for their defense historically, they're playing really good defense this year. Okay. They look really good. I want to see Indiana match up against one of the big boys, and I'll get to see that this Saturday when they have to go to Eugene. Georgia still in the contender, but Alabama beat them, so play that whole game. So basically, it's the top 4 and then Alabama. A&M, their defense coming around very nicely. So this list will fluctuate throughout the year. Oklahoma would probably be on that list. It would probably be that top 5. Because that is the top 5, but John Mateer's out, so I think there are some losses coming. And then there are people down on the list that can absolutely make the jump. Tennessee can make that jump. Missouri can make that jump. Notre Dame right there. I did take out Notre Dame, and I put in Miami, and I'm keeping Ole Miss in there. But again, I mean, Notre Dame right there, they beat Boise State. Beat them up pretty good. Kind of messed around with their food in the first half. Miami is ridiculous. They have Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain off the edges. They are a 2-man wrecking crew. There are times last night that Miami rushed 3 guys, and those 2 guys got home. Mesidor and Bain are game wreckers. Carson Beck was excellent. His QBR was just shy of 90. He threw for 241 and 4 touchdowns. As a team, they only ran for 97 yards. Florida State's also a good team and a good defense. They hung around. Tommy Castellanos had to throw the ball 45 times. If you're Florida State and the Gus Malzahn offense, you are not going to win the game if Tommy Castellanos has to throw the ball 45 times. His QBR was 63. He threw 2 interceptions. They ran for 132 yards. Again, the quarterback, the leading rusher, not going to get it done. Unless if you are Navy, Army, the academy schools, Navy, Army, Air Force, your leading rusher cannot be your quarterback. It's a recipe for disaster. Malachi Toney for Miami, he's Tyreek Hill in college. He needs a sliver of light, and he is in the end zone. He is so fast and so elusive. Wears number 10 as well. Maybe that's why I'm just making the Tyreek Hill comparison. But he does, like, watching Tyreek Hill in college and then watching early days of Tyreek Hill on the Chiefs, he reminds me a lot of Tyreek Hill. Yeah, and Florida State probably dropping out. They're 0-2 in the ACC, so that's not great. Virginia, by the way, wide open. But Florida State, they're still primed to have a good season. They're 3-2. Their schedule, everything's in front of them. Everything's in front of Miami. But Miami, with the pass rushers especially, and their schedule is not difficult. The difficult games are behind them. They have Louisville, who lost on Saturday. Stanford, who's not great. SMU, Syracuse without Angeli. They've just been getting beat up. NC State, Virginia Tech's already fired their coach. Penn State made a quarterback change, did have a big win on Saturday, big blowout win. They have a bye this week, and then they host Louisville. The only thing stopping Miami from being the number one team in the country eventually and being a playoff team and a national contender is themselves. That's very evident. And then Florida State, just real quick to look at their schedule. Their schedule is all right in front of them as well. Pittsburgh, Stanford, Wake Forest, Clemson had a big blowout win against North Carolina. Means nothing. Clemson fans, sorry. Virginia Tech, NC State, and Florida. All very winnable games. They're going to need some help because they're now 0-2 in the ACC, but everything's in front of Florida State yet. Alrighty, Texas Tech just dominated Houston 35-11. Texas Tech is a sneaky team. They are on the outside of my national contenders, just on the outside looking in. Vanderbilt and Alabama. Listen, Diego Pavia talked a big game and then did not back it up. He thought that if they played their best game, he even said it won't be close. He had a fumble at the 10-yard line going in to score, and he had an interception at the 10-yard line going in to score. You cannot have that. They lost 30-14. Alabama got a late touchdown. It was really 24-14. And so Alabama made it seem a lot bigger than what it was. Vanderbilt ran for $136, but this goes to Ty Simpson. Ever since week one, Ty Simpson has been on fire. He threw for 340 yards. His QBR was 80. 2 touchdowns. He did have one really bad interception in the first half. Alabama did not have a quarterback lead them in rushing. Jam Miller, 136 yards, 6.2 yards a carry, and a touchdown on the day. Ryan Williams, 2 yards shy of 100 and a touchdown. Alabama dominated-ish this game. Dominated the second half, I will say. The first half kind of went Vanderbilt's way. Second half, definitely Alabama kind of took a stranglehold on this game, and Vanderbilt was a nice story, but Bama seems to be back, and they are in my national contender list. Like I said, Notre Dame kind of just continues to dominate. They went ahead and beat Boise State 28-7. Again, kind of played with their food in the first half. They really weren't threatened. Jeremiah Love had a 100 yards game. Michigan kind of let Wisconsin hang around a little bit. Wisconsin's turned into the new Iowa. But I think the thing with Michigan, the only comment I will make is they have to be better at noticing when the running game's not working and let Bryce Underwood cook a little bit. He had 270 yards. And most of his yards came in the second half. I think he only had 55 yards at halftime passing. So he had 220 in the second half. Now, they lead the FBS in drops. The team has 14 drops on the season. That's going to bite them in the butt at some point in time. Some of that is on Bryce. Most of it is on the receivers. Justice Haynes had another 100-yard game and 2 touchdowns. He has had 100 yards and at least 1 touchdown in every single game as a Michigan Wolverine. Donovan McCulley, breakout game, 6 catches, $112, and a touchdown. And when Underwood got going in the second half, he found 2 wide receivers. Freshman Andrew Marsh, who had 4 catches for 80 yards, and Donovan McCulley. I expect that to increase as we get going more. I'm asking Chip Lindsey and specifically Sharon Moore to start recognizing earlier when your running game isn't working. because I feel like they beat their head against a brick wall against a good Wisconsin running rush defense. Number 1 in the country. Wisconsin has the number 1 rush defense in the country, and it showed. Meanwhile, the Michigan defense, they gave up one drive, the open 75-yard drive from Wisconsin, and then they didn't let Wisconsin do anything else the rest of the game. They held Wisconsin to 75 yards rushing. Hunter Simmons had a QBR of 56 and 77 yards and an interception. Michigan's defense kind of bowed up after that first drive. They were really good, and then Wisconsin did get a late field goal in the fourth quarter to make it a 14-point game. Michigan did not feel threatened once it was 17-7. Michigan did not feel threatened the rest of the game. But they need to recognize when to go to Bryce Underwood sooner, because he's starting to cook a little bit, and reps are going to help the receivers not drop the ball so much. Ohio State dominated Minnesota. Ohio State plays like an NFL team. Ohio State just has Julian Sayin take care of the ball and play good defense, and Julian Sayin did more than take care of the ball on Saturday. He threw for 326, 3 touchdowns. His QBR was nearly perfect, 97.4. Carnell Tate, had 9 catches for 183 yards and a touchdown. Jeremiah Smith added 2 touchdowns for a measly 67 yards. I say that with all the sarcasm in the world. And they ran for 135 yards. So against Minnesota, who's 3-2 now. So, and their defense gave up 162 total yards. The Ohio State defense is so good. Matt Patricia has been really, really good for Ohio State. And Ohio State, looking at their schedule, Illinois, that's a laugher. Blowout city. Wisconsin, laugher. Penn State, they are more talented. Penn State will get up for the game, but they are more talented. Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers should be sleep games. Michigan, at this point, Michigan is much like Penn State. We'll put up a fight. We'll get up. Rivalry game. Anything can happen. It's at Michigan. We'll see where Underwood is in his development at that point. But at that time, like at this point in time, Ohio State is better than Michigan. I recognize that. So the only thing keeping Ohio State from being in the Big Ten championship game, from being in the playoff, and from being a national champion are themselves. They're in the exact same position as Miami. And those are the 2 teams in my list of 5 that I can say that about. Everybody else, I think there are other factors in there. I think Oregon even, like Oregon's got Indiana. Again, their schedule, USC and Washington. Again, very winnable games, but I do think that there are other factors. They stalled out on the road for 3.5 quarters against a good Penn State defense, right? Miami and Ohio State have not stalled out yet. So every team has kind of stalled out. So really the only 2 teams in my list of 5 national contenders that the only thing stopping them from winning it all are themselves, are Ohio State and Miami. So we could get a repeat national championship from like 25 years ago. Texas A&M, continues to roll. Their defense has now come around ever since giving up 41 or 40 points to Notre Dame a few weeks ago. They've held their last 2 opponents to 13 points and 9 points. Their defense is coming around. Marcel Reed, catching fire. 10 points they allowed to Auburn, 9 they allowed to Mississippi State. They get Florida this coming weekend. Arkansas, ranked LSU, ranked Missouri, South Carolina, Stanford, and ranked Texas. They can win all the games. We'll just have, again, defense, who you're going to be, because they did allow 24 points to UTSA, 22 to Utah State, 40 to Notre Dame, and now they're starting to turn it on. So are they going to be the first 3 weeks or the last 2-week defense, or somewhere in between? Is their offense, who put up 42, 44, 41, and now 16 and 31, are they going to be the first 3 weeks or the last 2 weeks, or somewhere in between? Lots of questions to be answered for the Texas A&M side, but they are rocking and rolling. Mike Elko has them rolling. Virginia has put themselves in a darling position in the ACC. They get an overtime victory over Louisville, a game in which Louisville was favored. But Virginia rocking and rolling in the ACC. And guess what? They sit atop the ACC at 3-0, along with the Blue Devils of Duke and the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech. Long way to go. But Virginia has put themselves in a nice position to be in the ACC title game against Miami. However, I will say the race for the ACC title game is a race to get beaten by Miami. That's just what it is at this point. The Big 12 as well is a race to get beaten by Texas Tech, I do believe. Now, BYU is coming on, and Arizona State, can't count them out yet, had a loss to Mississippi State in week 2, I believe. So it can be wide open. The Cyclones of Iowa State lost to the Bearcats of Cincinnati. They're 2-0, a bunch of 2-0 teams at the top. But Texas Tech, to me, they walked into Utah. They dominated Houston, who was 4-0 last night. It was not even close. The Red Raiders of Texas Tech, to me, are the top of the Big 12. The top of the Big 10, that is easy. It is Oregon and Ohio State. And you need to flip them in order. It's really number 1 is Ohio State and number 2 is Oregon. And I believe there's a healthy distance in between there with the way Ohio State is playing defense right now. The American Navy midshipmen played Air Force yesterday. Crazy game, 31-34. That was not on my bingo card. They are 3-0. They are in conference, 5-0 overall. Memphis Tigers 2-0 in conference, 6-0 overall. North Texas 1-0 in conference, 5-0 overall. So the American's going to be a fun conference to watch coming down the stretch. Conference USA's got 2 teams at 3-0 and 2-0, which are Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky, respectively. The MAC, a whole bunch of, the top is the Buffalo Bulls, and they already have 3 losses on the season, but they're 2-0 in conference, along with the Western Michigan Broncos, who are 2-0 in conference, but 3. Mountain West, Fresno State, 2-0 in conference, 5-1 overall. UNLV, 1-0 in conference, and 5-0 overall, so that'll be fun. And then the SEC right now has Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Alabama, all with multiple conference wins, all sitting at the top. Ole Miss is 5-0. So are the Aggies, and A&M is 4-1. Missouri's 5-0. Oklahoma's 5-0. Again, both of them, I believe, do have flaws. So it's going to be a fun kind of finish to the season, absolutely. But I do believe the cream of the crop in the SEC are the Ole Miss Rebels and the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm not historically, I'm not a believer in the Aggies. And then again, Big 10, it's Ohio State and Oregon. Big 12, I think it's Texas Tech. And ACC, it's Miami. Those are who I think will be your Power 4 kind of champions or in the championship. Went to Purdue, put up 43 points, won the game. They get Ohio State next week. They gave up 27. Illinois' defense is just not great. That is very, very obvious to me. Illinois has given up 19 to Duke, and that's just because Duke had 5 turnovers on the day. So this is all major competition. 19 points to Duke, who had 5 turnovers on the day. 63 points to Indiana, 32 points to USC, and now 27. Ohio State, I do believe, is going to hang half 100 on them. I truly, truly believe this is an Ohio State runaway game. I don't know what the line is, but I could see the line being multiple scores. Let's see if it'll even tell me on here. If I click up forward to week 7. So Illinois is going to have to figure things out defensively. Here we go. The line has not been released yet for Ohio State, Illinois, but I can almost guarantee it's going to be multiple scores, and I would take Ohio State minus the points. So Illinois has kind of been a fun little team to watch, but they're about to run into a buzzsaw at Ohio State. Alrighty, well, that will do it for today's kind of recap. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate your time. We'll do it again next week, week 7. It's been a fun season. Week 6 was awesome. Week 7, again, just looking ahead, and we'll do a podcast. Go take a listen to that everybody that it will come out later this week. We do have Ohio State number 1 versus number 22, number 10 Alabama versus number 19. We do have number 8 Indiana versus number 2 Oregon, number 5 Oklahoma, Red River Rivalry playing number 9 Texas. I'm just trying to find. We have Michigan at USC, Georgia at Auburn, and South Carolina at LSU. So some very exciting matchups, a little more ranked on ranked violence, as I like to call it, 4 matchups. So yeah, take a listen to the upcoming week's podcast. When it comes out, it'll drop Wednesday morning, hopefully. All right, until next time, everyone, thank you for being here. I will see you all later. Bye-bye.